Welcome to this explainer, where we're diving straight into a story that literally froze an entire nation. Just picture this. It's an ordinary Wednesday morning. Thousands of employees are walking into these gleaming office buildings across India, totally unaware that their reality is about to shatter. Investors are sipping their coffee, checking their portfolios, and newsrooms are just gearing up for a routine business day. But oh boy, it was anything but routine.
Because on January 7th, 2009, a single letter appeared. It was incredibly short, actually, just a few hundred words long. And the craziest part about this? The person who signed it wasn't some brave whistleblower, it wasn't a market regulator, and it wasn't an investigative journalist. No, it was the founder of the company himself. In one fell swoop, with a single confession, he admitted that one of India's absolute most admired technology companies was built entirely on a lie. And as you can probably guess, within minutes, this confession triggered absolute sheer panic from Hyderabad all the way to Wall Street. It erased literally billions of dollars in shareholder wealth in a flash. Poof, gone. It sent these massive shockwaves through global financial markets, proving that this supposedly rock-solid company was actually built on pure fiction.
So, let's get into part one, the perfect corporate illusion.
Okay, so to understand the crash, we have to look at the peak. During the late 90s and early 2000s, Satyam was a titan. It stood proudly right alongside giants like Infosys, TCS, and Wipro as this sparkling symbol of India's booming IT industry. I mean, young engineers were landing opportunities their parents couldn't have even dreamed of. And the financial statements? They told a story of unstoppable growth. We're talking consistently growing revenues and profit margins quarter after quarter, enormous cash reserves, a client roster packed with Fortune 500 names, and literally overflowing trophy cabinets for corporate excellence. Analysts were raving about their discipline, and TV experts were screaming from the rooftops to buy the stock. But there was a catch. Behind every single impressive balance sheet was a question that nobody, and I mean nobody, was asking. What if those numbers weren't actually real?
Which brings us to part two. The man everyone trusted.
At the very center of this extraordinary success story was Ramalinga Raju. Now, Raju was this soft-spoken, visionary founder who really leaned into the image of a humble entrepreneur. The public perception was flawless. He was seen as a trusted, award-winning technology powerhouse backed by governments. His employees adored him, and investors trusted him implicitly. But here's the reality. Behind closed doors, Raju was carrying a massive, incredibly heavy secret. The company was essentially a hollowed-out fiction hiding behind these pristine balance sheets. The numbers just weren't real. And you can imagine, that secret only grew heavier and heavier with every passing year.
Now let's look at part three, anatomy of a giant lie. You see, a fraud of this magnitude, it doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It slowly builds. It usually starts with step one, a tiny adjustment. Maybe you inflate a few invoices just to meet Wall Street's relentless expectations. Then, step two, you promise yourself you'll fix it next quarter. No big deal, right? But the gap grows. So step three, you make another adjustment and another. You start inventing fake bank statements. You might even add thousands of ghost employees, people who don't actually exist, to the payroll just to siphon off cash. Until finally, step four, the truth becomes entirely impossible to recover. Somewhere deep inside Satyam, that exact dangerous cycle had taken root. The company literally stopped chasing actual growth because they were too busy desperately chasing an illusion.
So naturally, the big question we have to ask is, why did nobody see what was happening? I mean, they had top-tier auditors like PwC reviewing the accounts every single quarter. Major global banks were maintaining relationships with them. So were the warning signs totally invisible? Or were they simply ignored because everybody just really wanted the success story to be true? Every quarter, analysts pumped out these glowing reports. Institutional investors poured in millions, and clients happily renewed their contracts. Honestly, it's a terrifying question when you think about the financial systems that are supposed to be out there protecting us.
Moving on to part four, the ticking time bomb. While everyone else was celebrating, behind closed doors, the pressure was intensifying dramatically. The gap between Raju's fiction and the actual reality was widening so fast that it required a brand new miracle every single reporting season. And the blast radius of this ticking time bomb, it was absolutely massive. Think about it. Over 50,000 employees depended on this company for their livelihoods. Global Fortune 500 clients trusted it with their most critical tech infrastructure. And millions of everyday investors thought they owned a piece of India's golden future. They were risking their retirement savings, their kids' college funds, family investments.
The stakes were astronomical, and literally no one on the outside knew just how close the collapse really was.
Which leads us to part 5, the beginning of the end.
The countdown finally reached 0 when Raju tried to pull off a really desperate, highly controversial corporate buyout of a real estate firm called Mitas. He was basically trying to use this acquisition to somehow plug the massive financial hole he dug. But the plan backfired. It forced regulators to start asking difficult questions, and investors finally rebelled. The man who had spent years carefully protecting this elaborate fiction was suddenly backed into a corner. He faced one final impossible choice: confess the billion-dollar lie to the world and face the immediate, brutal fallout, or continue the deception and keep spinning the illusion until the entire company catastrophically collapsed on its own. He chose to confess.
The Satyam scandal, you see, wasn't just the explosive end of one man's career. It was, and still is, a devastating lesson in corporate governance. It shows us exactly how a universally celebrated tech giant can become its own greatest danger when oversight completely fails. So, the provocative question we're left with today as we look around at the explosive growth of modern tech unicorns is this: what warning signs are we ignoring right now simply because we want the success story to be true?